So let's take a look at Parshas Bo, and the title of our Dvar Torah today is True Darkness is Not Seeing Another. And the reason for the title of this Dvar Torah is if we look carefully at the plague of darkness, we see that the Torah describes the plague of darkness in a really unusual way. First, the Torah says, "Vayet Moshe et yado al hashamayim, vayihi choshech afela b'chol eretz Mitzrayim shloshet yamim." Moshe stretches out his hand upon the sky, and there was a very thick darkness in all of Egypt for 3 days. That was the plague. That's the way the Torah describes the plague. Now, and how does the Torah describe the effect of the plague? That's in verse 23. Lo ra'u ish et achiv, no man saw his brother. V'lo kamu ish mitachtav shloshet yamim, nor did any person rise from where he was for 3 days. Everyone was sort of like paralyzed, it seems like. But by contrast, ulachol b'nei Yisrael hayaor b'moshavotam. But for all of b'nei Yisrael, there was light in their dwelling places. Now, the simple understanding of the text really defies understanding. Lo ra'u ish et achiv. If you're describing that people couldn't see, why does the Torah say lo ra'u ish et achiv? No person saw his brother. Why not just say people couldn't see the hand in front of their face? That's how I would describe it. If it's really, really pitch black, what do we say? I couldn't even see the hand in front of my face. Why does the Torah say that they couldn't see their brother or their kin? Just say they couldn't see anything. Wouldn't that be more descriptive of how dark it was? So that's the question. That's the question, and there are many ways to answer the question, but the Chidushei Harim, the first Gerer Rebbe, was known for the answer to this question, and he was quoted in different ways by his students. We're going to see two different paragraphs in which the Chidushei Harim was quoted by different students, but the idea essentially is the same, is that when you can't see another person, you're really in the dark. And that's the ethical lesson that I want to bring out today. So let's take a look. There's a sefer called Likutei Harim, which brings together all of the different ways that the Gerer Rebbe was quoted by his students. So, Lo ra'u ish et achiv v'lo kamu ish mitachtav. So says the first quote, Mitoch zot shelo ra'u ish et achiv, because no man could see his brother. And instead of breaking our teeth on the Yiddish, let's read the brackets, because this is the way he said it in Yiddish originally. He says, Mi shelo yuchal lirot et chavero ba'ayin yafeh. If a person could not see his brother with a good eye, meaning with a favorable eye, to look at someone else and say, I see a good person there, if you can't do that, so then v'lo kamu ish mitachtav, then that means that person cannot get up from under themselves. Meaning, ein lo tekuma meha ofel shehu tachtav, and that person is truly in the dark, and they cannot arise from their own darkness that is within. Dihine mida harishona shel Yehudi shelo yasur histakluto mitoch atzmo. He says every Jew, at first glance, really is fixated on self. That's really the first initial instinct, is to sort of look at ourselves. V'shelo yirtzeh lahabit el toch havero. And there's no real desire to try and look at what's within somebody else. Uve'emet, but in truth, ein yachol lirot v'limtso b'chavero ela ma shenimtza b'toch atzmo. But the truth is, you can only see in someone else what you already see in yourself. In other words, the ability to see goodness in another arises out of the ability to see goodness in yourself. If you find darkness within yourself, then you are generally plagued with darkness, and you cannot see anyone else's light. It's very, very difficult to feel good about others when you don't feel good about yourself, is essentially what he's saying. V'zeh shekasav lo ra'u ish et achiv, hainu mitzad shelo nir'eh lo chavero. He says, because what does it mean? People couldn't see each other. Al yedei zeh lo kamu ish mitachtav, and as a result, people couldn't get out of their own quagmire. Hainu al yedei zeh lo yuchal lahakim et atzmo. If I can't find some redemptive quality in others, it means that I can't find anything redemptive about myself, and therefore I'll always be stuck in where I am. If we want to apply this historically to the Egyptians, we can certainly understand why Hashem presents the Egyptians with this kind of plague. The lesson that he's giving to them is that because you looked at the Jews as subhuman and you treated them as your slaves, this is a reflection of yourselves. How could you possibly feel good about yourselves if you can't see each other? And the same disdain that you had for Jews probably spilled over to the rest of Egyptian society, where there was this general disdain for others. And that's really what the plague was all about. And by contrast, what does the Torah say? Ulechol b'nei Yisrael hayaor b'moshevotam. I'm just reading you the pasuk. But for the Jewish people, there was light in their dwelling places. They had light, which means that they were able to see each other. So perhaps in their sense of squalor, in their realization that no person can be alone in this world, we have to be able to see each other in order to survive, that's why they had light. The danger, of course, is becoming Egyptian even as we are Jews. We have to make sure that we don't become Egyptian and we don't fail to see the light that is within others. We don't fail to see the other. Because if we fail to see the quality of others, it sort of means that we're sort of stuck within ourselves. Now, a second way of saying that is a much shorter way from another student. Lo ro'u ish et achiv v'lo kamu, second paragraph. Shahachoshech hachi gadol hu. The greatest darkness in life is kishaha'echad lo ra'eh b'tzarat chavero ve'eno ozer lo. Is when you can't see someone else's travail, you can't see someone else's distress, and therefore you don't come to their aid. Lo ra'u ish et achiv. When people didn't see each other, what is the end? V'hasofu she'im eno rotze lirot b'tzarat chavero gam ba'atzmo eno yachol lazuz mimekomo. Then you won't be able to move yourself. If I'm so fixated on self, I'll never be able to resolve my own issues if I can't help others first. I have to be able to come to other people's aid in order to be able to find internal salvation for myself. So that's just a sort of a similar message, a sort of a corollary of what we just read. You have to be able to see other people's lives and other people's complications. You know, we all have troubles in life. We all have very, very adverse situations that we face in life, each and every one of us. Everyone has a peckle, as we know. And as they say, don't ever wish you could trade someone else's peckle. We all have peckelach. But the challenge in life is to see how that other person's peckle is weighing on them. And if you are able to do that, then you'll be able to recover from your own peckle. You'll be able to recover from your own challenges and adversities. But if you can't find the wherewithal to see someone else's challenge in life, then that's a sign that you don't have the resources to help resolve your own issues. So it's sort of like two sides of the same coin. The first way of explaining it was you have to see the light and the beauty of somebody else in order to appreciate the beauty that exists within yourself. The second way that the Chidushei Harim was quoted was that if you can't see the adversity of someone else in order to be able to help them, then you'll never be able to help yourself. Okay? Again, two different sides, coming from two different sides, but a very same beautiful idea. The third paragraph that I wanted to share with you is that the Chidushei Harim also said that there's a very interesting halacha when it comes to the law of reciting Kriyat Shema. The Gemara asks the question, when is the earliest time to recite Kriyat Shema? And there's a measurement called Mishi Yakir et Chavero. From the time that you can recognize a friend, an acquaintance, not really a close friend, but there has to be so much daylight that daylight gives you the ability to recognize a friend who's 4 cubits away from you. Mishiyakar et chaveru berichuk dalet amot. And that's a sign that it is daylight, that the day has broken, so you can begin your day and recite Kriyat Shema. If you can't yet recognize a person, your friend, then it's still nighttime, and it's too early to recite Kriyat Shema. And the point that he's trying to say is, Lo ra'u ish et achiv. If a person can't see his brother yet, then velo kamu ish mitachtav, then you haven't yet been able to come up from outside of your own dalet amot. You haven't been able to come up from where you are and work outside. And I think just by extension, I'm not going to read the whole paragraph, the point that Chidushei Harim is saying is, what is the whole point of reciting Kriyat Shema, of accepting the yoke of heaven upon yourself? It's to be able to accept God's mastery over myself. But if I do that to the exclusion of being able to see my brother, or my sister, then I can't properly accept the yoke of heaven upon myself. So homiletically, what it means is when the Gemara says, you have to be able to see your brother outside of yourself at a distance of 4 cubits, it means the only proper way to accept Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, to accept the yoke of heaven, to accept God upon yourself, is to appreciate that God has other creatures, has created a whole world of other vital human beings that he cares for and are his children as well. If you can't see that, if you can't see the other persons, you can't see the other creations, the God's other children, then you're not ready to accept the yoke of heaven upon yourself. Then there's no way that you can possibly be a God-fearing Jew. So that's another corollary of this. Now, and then there's a sefer called Likutei Yehoshua, which I have on the left side, which is another corollary of this. Because there's a very interesting midrash, and we'll read this paragraph inside. He says, Ume'inyan le'inyan al oto haderech. Let's now carry this over using the same line of thinking. Al pi hamuva b'midrash. There's a medrash that tries to describe the thickness of the darkness, because darkness does not have any material substance. But this darkness was palpable. This darkness was tangible, so that if you tried to lift up your hand was sort of like stuck in this soup of darkness. It was like a thick molasses of darkness, is the way the Medrash describes it. And so, Shahachoshech haya'av kemo dinar zahav. And it says the darkness was as thick as a golden coin. Just like a golden coin, you can't bend it because it's really thick, and you can't stick your hand through it. The darkness was as thick as a golden coin. So what a strange analogy. Why not just say a bar of gold or a bar of metal, an iron bar, a crowbar, something like that? Just say it was really, really hard and thick and was not malleable. He says, V'tzarich lihitbonein, lama himshila et hachoshech davka la'ovyo shel dinar zahav. He says, let's think about this. Why does the Medrash specifically compare the thickness of this plague to a golden coin, a golden dinar? Ach haremez hu bazeh, shebi'im adam rodef achar hamamon, hayenu dinar zahav, hu magia lidei kach she'eno ro'eh od shum adam zulat atzmo. He says, what the Medrash is alluding to is the fact that if your life is filled with the pursuit of golden coins, then you won't be able to see your brother. The world will be so dark that you won't be able to see your fellow human being. We fail to see others when we are so consumed with the pursuit of material gain. I can only think about Black Friday and what goes on at the stores on Black Friday. I mean, not so much in Canada, although it's come to Canada also, but in the U.S., Black Friday, people stand online, those images, maybe not so much anymore, thank God for the internet, I never thought I would say that, but you see people lining up. You used to see people lining up early, to get into the Best Buy, because they had these, what they were called door crashers. Remember that term, door crashers? You had door crashers, which were basically As soon as they open the door, you crash into the door so that you can get that. They have 6 large screen plasma TVs at 50% discount. So people would rush into the store, trample over each other to be able to get one of those plasma TVs. Well, that's really a metaphor for what life can be for a person who is so consumed by, let me get, or I guess it's not going to be too long before Pesach. You go to some of those Pesach programs, and we've set up the buffet. As soon as they open up the buffet, you don't have the door crashers, you have the buffet crashers. And, I got to make sure I get one of those, the best ribeye steak, because if I don't get there now, they're going to run out, And so we crash into each other to clamor for whatever is what I'm trying to get. Now, not every Pesach program is like that. I'm not casting aspersions on the entire industry, but you get the picture. So he says, Hainu dinar zahav hu magia lidei kach she'eino ro'eh od shum adam zulat atzmo, v'rak tovat atzmo yidrosh tamid. A person seems to only be able to seek out their own welfare and doesn't focus on what the needs of others are around them. V'rak hamamon ta'avato kol hayom, because all they can think about is the desire for their own material gain. Uchamoshi yadua hasipor ba'oto hakamtzan shelo ratza latet lepidyon shvuyim. There's a story, he says, that is known about a wealthy man who was a miser and did not want to contribute towards the mitzvah of pidyon shvuyim, of trying to, there was a Rebbe had come to him and said, listen, I'm collecting tzedakah, I need you to help me because we have to ransom these people, it's going to cost us a lot of money, we need you to contribute to it. And the fellow didn't want to give. So, V'heralo harav hakadosh Reb Moshe Leib Misasav Zal, mar'eh, hainu shpigel b'lashon Yiddish. So the Rebbe of Sasav says to the man, as when they're together in the Rebbe's chamber, he brings him over to a mirror, and he says, what do you see? V'shaloto mi ata roa bazeh. He said to him, who do you see in that mirror? V'amar lo et atzmi. He says, I see myself. V'az hevioto el hachalon. Then he brought him to the window. V'sha'aloto et mi ata roa achshav. Who do you see through the window? V'amar lo hakamtzan anashim ovrim v'shavim ani roet. And he said, well, I see people on the street, people walking back and forth on the street. That's what I see in the window. So v'amar lo Reb Moshe Leib, hein tir'eh ki gam hachalon v'gam hamareh shnei masuim mizuchuchit. So Reb Moshe Leib said to the man, he says, when you think about it, a mirror and a window are really quite similar. They're both made out of glass. V'lama zeh bechalon tir'eh anashim acherim v'ilu b'mareh tir'eh rak et atzmacha. Why is it that when you look through a window you see other people, and when you look at a mirror, which is also a pane of glass, you see yourself? He says the answer is Ela shahamare mechuseh ba'avak kesef. He says the only difference between a mirror and a window is that there's a thin layer of silver covering the back of the glass that is the mirror. Umachmad zeh ein adam ro'eh bo ela habavua shel atzmo. And therefore all you can see is your own reflection. Ach im agared et hakesef tisher zuchuchit pshuta. So the Rebbe said, if I scrape off the silver, then you'll be able to see other people. V'shuv tuchal erot et zulatcha v'lo tikpot yadcha yoter. And then you'll be able to see other people, and you won't be so miserly. So the Rebbe essentially was telling him, I as a Rebbe have the ability to take away all your silver. Would you like me to scrape off the silver off the back of your mirror? The fellow got the message, and he gave the Rebbe the money that he was requesting for Pidyon Shvuyim to ransom someone who had been taken captive. I've heard many variations of this story. It's a well-known story, but the point is that that's the same idea of not being able to see your brother. And the reason why the Medrash says that the darkness was so thick, it was like the thickness of a gold coin, It's a very deliberate analogy. Of course, it was thick and it was not bendable, but why specifically like a gold coin? Because what causes us not to be able to see each other? It's our own selfishness, our own pursuits of what we feel is best for ourselves. And so there's a psychological message from the Ger Rebbe, and that is that if you want to be able to help yourself, you have to be able to see other people. Number one, you have to be able to realize that there's goodness in other people, and that goodness could actually be beneficial to you in helping you alleviate whatever ails you. If you can only see the same darkness that you see in yourself, then there's no hope for you to have that problem alleviated. That's why we go to therapists, we go to people for help, because we feel that I don't have the wherewithal to be able to help myself. Maybe the person who's the professional can help me. But one of the things that a person on a more universal level has to realize is that there's goodness in everyone, and that the key to my being cured of my own darkness, the way that I'll be able to see if I'm getting better, is if I can start to see goodness in others. And once I can start to see the goodness in others, then I know that there's hope for me. The Gemara has another way of saying it, kol haposel b'mumo posel. That if you disqualify others, what you're really seeing is a reflection of yourself in that other person. And therefore, you're not going to be able to overcome your own blemishes. If you disqualify another, you're disqualifying your own blemish that you see in that other person. We tend to fixate on the negative in others when we have a negative fixation in general. So the key is to try and find light in other people. It takes a conscious decision to be able to say, I know that there's goodness in other people, even if there's darkness within myself. The key to my getting alleviated is to start to see that light in others. Questions, comments? Okay. Have a great day, everyone.